Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin alongside Chris Palmer. Chris Palmer, how you doing today?
Listen, man, it is a good time of the year because football is back.
Woo.
The final week of preseason is over. The rosters are out. It is now just a waiting game till Thursday.
We are back for this upcoming 22 NFL season, and man, we are excited. We have so much to talk about. There's so many great games, especially in the first weekend.
Oh my God, what a way to come back, man. I can't believe this slate of games of week one coming up.
Oh man, this is going to be great. So, for those of you just joining us for the first time, we are Let's Talk Football. We're going to be discussing some games for this upcoming week, and then later on in the episode, we're going to pick said games for the entirety of the week. But before we get to that, there's a few things that we want to talk about. First being Desean Watson. Now, our last episode previously, there was yet to be determined his suspension in the league for his conduct outside of the field. So he has an 11-game suspension for the Cleveland Browns. Tell me, Chris Palmer, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, like you said on our last podcast, we had mentioned that his previous suspension of, I believe it was 4 games, was being appealed.
Six.
Okay.
6 games.
6 games.
Mm-hmm.
Was being appealed, and it turned to be 11. Still not enough, in my opinion. They should give him at least 1 season. You know, they've given people 1 season for less. They gave people 1 season for less this year.
Calvin Ridley.
But they gave him 1 season for doing a small wage bet on his own team to win.
$1,500 too.
Right. So now he's suspended indefinitely.
Yeah, so I do agree with you in regards to Desean Watson that this should have been more, but clearly the NFL was not ready for this type of volume of allegations against one individual. So they were very ill prepared for this. I recommend and implore you all to check out what happened this offseason in a legal setting, because they had to get the NFL had to get an arbiter and determine some games, but they appealed the arbiter, and so it was a whole fiasco. Long story short, Desean Watson out for 11 games.
Yeah, and that's gonna hurt Cleveland. They have nowhere to go now because they got rid of Baker Mayfield and they signed him to like an 80% fully guaranteed contract for $140 million.
No, $230 million guaranteed.
Okay, so and now he's not going to be playing until week 12.
So that's it with Desean Watson. Is there any other thoughts you have on him?
No, I have nothing. He doesn't come to mind. Just a very...
Yeah, we have so much other stuff to talk about.
Better things to talk about with this upcoming season than to give him more benefit of time.
I know. So yeah, let's not talk about Desean Watson anymore. Let's move on to what Paul and I wanted to do, and some bold predictions for this upcoming season. And so, Chris Paul, let's start. What are some bold predictions that you have for this upcoming NFL season?
Thinking about it, you and I off air, we spoke about one. I have about 2 or 3 bold predictions. One of them, I feel like Vegas could potentially steal their division. And I use steal very strictly.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be an absolute gun show between Kansas City and the Chargers. But you can't forget the talent that is Vegas. Again, I always refer back to last season with the adversity they had to overcome and still play as well as they did. More so on the backbone of Derek Carr being able to get through the trials of adversity. Now, there's nothing. It's a clean slate in Vegas with the same team.
No, different team.
Different team, better team, Devontae Adams.
You have Devontae Adams joining your team.
And you have an ever-growing and ever-progressing Derek Carr. He's gotten better every year since being drafted. I have a soft spot for Derek Carr. I always have since he came in the league. He's great. And because of the stature of division that it is, he kind of gets undermined and overshadowed. But don't hesitate to think that they can't just slip in and steal that division. I feel.
Well, they have a good shot as any because the AFC West is wide open. Tell me, what is your other bold predictions?
Tom Brady has his worst year overall.
Ooh, okay.
Has his worst
Elaborate
year.
on this.
Well, as we saw last year, he threw his career high in interceptions. A lot of people forget that. He had an MVP caliber season, but he is no longer throwing the way he could. You have to understand that the speed of the game is getting more, and he's slowed his game down to fine tune it. He's been trimming fat for 10 years or more on his game. The game is changing faster than I feel that he's going to be able to adapt because of how molded he is as a player.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the entirety of the structure of Tampa with Bruce Arians. What you see is what you get with Tampa. And then he took for whatever reason he took, I believe it was 10 days off just recently. Didn't tell the coaches nothing as to why. His answer was, I got shit going on. I'm 45. So, if he's keeping it tight to the chest, he's probably looking at the closing of his NFL career once again, but this time he's going to do it in complete secret.
Well, that is a very bold prediction. I was not expecting that. Tell me, you have one more for us?
I have one more. I feel like Trayvon Diggs is going to prove to be the biggest bust in the league.
Okay.
I was very high on Trayvon Diggs in the beginning.
You and I last year especially, we were giving him his praises.
He was giving him his praises because of his interception rate.
But
we started looking deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you something. Who let up more yards than him as a secondary?
No one. He let up the most yards as a cornerback.
Exactly. In a game of points and attrition, you cannot be burned like that.
Yeah.
And there's been clips going around of him during camp. There was a scrimmage between him, the Cowboys, and I believe it was the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
His back was to the quarterback, hands up, trying to defend a pass.
Yeah, no. That's not how you do it.
That's not how you do it. There's no joking when it comes to scrimmages.
Mm-hmm.
Play in practice as you're going to play in the game.
Okay.
If you're not focused, you're going to be left behind. So that did not sit well with me.
Yeah, he's definitely a feast or famine cornerback, where he can get his interceptions, and he can also give up the most yardage as a secondary player. So that I'm not going to disagree with you on that one, but that is a very good bold. Do you have any more for us?
No, those are mine. What are yours?
Okay, I'm going to start off with an easy one. I think Derrick Henry's going to rush for another 2,000-yard season.
Well, yeah, that's kind of more or less written in stone for this man. He's coming as a man on a mission.
He is a man on a mission, and last year he had about 953 yards in up to week 7. So I think if he would have stayed healthy, he could have done it and gone for a consecutive 2,000-yard season. But he got injured. And he's coming back this year, so he had to rehab and get a little bit better and stuff like that, make his body a little bit better. But I do not doubt this man. I think he's going to rush for another 2,000-yard season.
I feel bad for those who doubt this man. I really do. He is a man on a mission, and if we can see anything consistent, is that this man does not stop. Once he gets a single head of steam, he just doesn't stop. And that's going from game to game and season to season. From 2,000 to 900 to now, he's just going to be angry.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everyone, look out. What's your next one?
So, my second bold prediction is the Seattle Seahawks are going to go winless this year. It's no surprise that Seattle is going to be a very bad team with the absence of Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner.
Right.
Those are your two generals on both sides of the ball, and to get rid of them, or to trade them, I mean, I get you want to rebuild, but my God, you're going to lose this entire season. Looking at their schedule, the only games that they might win are against the Jets and the Giants, depending on who's the worst team. But honestly, I think Seattle's going to be the worst team. I think they're going to go winless this year.
You see, I can't help but agree with you there, but that Jets game, I give them more credit to win that game just because of how poorly coached the Jets are. But again, it's going to come down to who plays worse when it comes to both of those games. You're absolutely correct. It hurts how poetic it would be that the last piece of the Legion of Boom leaves and they go winless.
Yeah, that would be
Think about
very poetic.
That would be so poetic. And the downfall would just be immense.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, so Seattle, winless. And I got one more bold prediction.
Okay.
And this one hurts my soul. But this is Lamar Jackson's last year as a Raven. And I say that because Ravens want to sign him. Lamar wants to sign, but he wants a very specific contract. And I just don't think that the Ravens will bend to that. And I think that Lamar will probably hit the open market next year. And there's a good chance that he'll probably be... There are two teams I could see it. I could see them on Miami. And I could also see them on Minnesota. So those are just pie in the sky predictions, but
I'm going to give you one more team to think about with that.
I hope I'm wrong with this one, but shoot, what's the other team?
And now you're going to have to hear me out on this one.
Okay.
The Rams.
You're going to have to explain yourself.
Okay. Look at the budget that they have. Look at how many moves they made late last season into this offseason of just picking people and signing them to huge contracts.
They don't have the budget that Lamar's asking for the money that he's asking for.
Lamar's going to be asking for Desean Watson money.
Exactly, and the Rams can't do that because they
Who
have...
knows?
They can't. They would exceed the cap because they have Aaron Donald. They just signed Bobby Wagner, Jalen Ramsey, Cooper Kupp, and you still have Leonard Floyd on there as well. Cam Akers. You have so many players of high, getting paid big bucks. Plus, I think they're content with Stafford. I think he'll be there until he retires.
Right, but how much longer does Stafford have, do you think?
I give Stafford another 3 years. And I think, for the Rams, I think they're satisfied at quarterback. Another team that just came to mind just now, Atlanta. Maybe, I don't know.
That would be a choke situation. That would be.
But they have the cap room and they want a quarterback.
They have the cap room, but I feel like the notoriety that Lamar has for Baltimore, they wouldn't want to send him there. That he has the relationship with Baltimore that he has, sure, they can't come to a business understanding. The Ravens will remember what he did for the franchise.
Oh, absolutely.
So when it is time to part ways, there's going to be a respectful send-off, and they're going to put him somewhere where he's in a position to win and better himself as a player.
No, but you're thinking this as a trade. I'm saying after the season,
he's going to
hit the open market. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So it's going to be whoever needs a quarterback and whoever throws him a lot of money. And I just hope that the Ravens keep him. And this is my bold prediction that I hope I am wrong.
I really hope you are too, because the crash down to earth for you guys if he leaves is going to be serious.
It's going to be rough.
That will be serious.
But that is our bold predictions for this upcoming season and into next year a little bit. So with that being said, we have some games to talk about this season this week. So, wait.
I got one question for you before we go.
Okay.
Who do you think is going to the Super Bowl this year?
Oh, you're right.
We're going to call this out just like we did last season, where it was before the season started, we gave our bold Super Bowl predictions as people just look on paper.
Okay.
Who do you think is going to the Super Bowl?
Okay. So I've been pretty solid and firm with my Super Bowl pick, and it's kind of formulated throughout the offseason. I see the Buffalo Bills going to play against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I know you said that Brady's going to have probably his worst season so far. I don't see that happening. I see Brady matching the success that he had last year, even though, yes, he threw his highest interception ratio, I think was 15 interceptions?
Something like that,
He threw 43 touchdowns. I think that outweighs it a lot, especially going over 5,000 yards, and there was only one other quarterback to throw for over 5,000 yards last year, and that was Justin Herbert.
Right.
So I don't see Brady regressing. I see him probably getting sacked a little bit more because they had some injuries to their offensive line. But ultimately, looking at the schedule, I see Buffalo and the Buccaneers, and I think Buffalo's going to win it. And I think this is their time to win it.
Okay.
Who do you see as your Super Bowl?
Funny enough, I think we're going to witness it next Thursday.
Really?
Yes. My Super Bowl prediction is the Buffalo Bills are going to be meeting the Los Angeles Rams.
The Rams?
In the Super Bowl.
Okay.
I think the Rams are set up to go for years to come. That's why I piggybacked with the bold prediction that they go for Lamar. I think they're set. It was just a very bold idea that I just thought of. Buffalo, they have a very poor taste in their mouth.
They're angry.
Oh, they are
angry.
on a mission this year. I think that's what we're going to see this year. We're going to see first game and last game of the year.
I wouldn't be mad at either one, so long as Buffalo wins it. I'd be
Buffalo's got to
happy with
bring one home.
Oh, man. But to think, though, if they beat against the defending Super Bowl champs or against the quarterback that has tormented them for 20 years, it would mean so much more to the city of Buffalo. So that is our Super Bowl predictions for this upcoming season, and I like both of them. But, man, there's a long time from now until then.
That's right. The game of attrition is on.
But we can only take it week by week.
That's right.
So let's start with week 1. Let's talk about some games for this upcoming week.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Okay, so the first game that let's talk about is that Thursday night game. Let's talk about the Buffalo and the Rams. So tell me, what do you see in this game?
I see an absolute shootout on its way.
Really?
Yes. I think it's going to be a very high-structured defensive game, but the quarterbacks are just going to let loose and just let it ride. Again, Buffalo, they're coming out with a very nasty taste in their mouth from the playoffs last year. And the Rams are coming off one of the craziest highs that they'll ever feel, off of a Super Bowl win. Emotions are going to be out of this world on both ends of paper. The defenses are going to be playing out of their minds, but I feel like the quarterbacks are going to be on such a ride that they're absolutely just going to rip everything open, and they're going to have one of the best middle-of-the-range scoring games that we're going to see all season, and it's going to be Game 1, Week 1. This is my Super Bowl prediction. This is going to be such a caliber of game. This is going to be a game of the year potential.
I agree with you on that. It's definitely going to be game of the year potential because, again, you have the Buffalo Bills who are heavily favored by a lot of people to win it all this year, such as ourselves. But you also have the Rams who match up so well against the Bills. And I see this as a little bit more of a low-scoring affair, probably somewhere in the range of 20 to 17-ish, just about. Reason being is both defenses made some incredible leaps for this offseason. Now, Buffalo last year, they had the number 1 scoring defense, which means they pretty much had the best defense in the league, the number 1 defense. But remember, towards the end of the year, they were hurt in some key positions, especially at their cornerback position. Tre'Davious White missed a good portion of the season last year. He comes back healthy. Mm-hmm. You also have depth as cornerback by drafting Kaiir Elam in the first round of the draft this year. So you strengthen your strength in a sense. Also, you get Von Miller right on the edge. He's going to help Gregory Rousseau, that young stud, just get developed and become a better pass rusher and get to the quarterback. So I do love the defensive acquisitions that Buffalo got, and they're pretty much the same on offense. They still have Stephon Diggs. They still have Gabriel Davis as the number 2, who really flashed in that game against KC.
Yes,
he had 4 touchdowns that game against Kansas City.
I forgot about that.
Yes. And you still have Devin Singletary in the backfield, and you also have Knox as your tight end.
Dawson Knox is something to behold.
He is a very underrated tight end, and I think we're going to see a lot more of him this upcoming season, which is going to be great. But you flip the ball over to the Rams, they match up very well against Buffalo because you still have Jalen Ramsey, but man, you get Bobby Wagner to defend the middle. That is a huge pickup, and he's still one of the best middle linebackers in the league. And you just take away the middle of the field. Oh man, that's going to be real tough for them. And so I would expect both teams to kind of attack the flats and the outside corners, the outside numbers of the field. I wouldn't really expect a lot of stuff in the middle. I would see a lot of one-on-one matchups right in the flats, attacking the cornerbacks, seeing what they can get out of each one of them. And also the Rams, they're going to get some sacks.
For sure.
You got Aaron Donald going to be flashing his jewelry, showing why he earned that ring.
Right. Because
the Super Bowl came down to, I'm going to just take down Joe Burrow.
I'm just going to sack him as much as I can. And that's just what it was.
And he did a great job that game. And you also have Leonard Floyd coming back as well. So they match up very well on defense on both teams. They have strong defenses, and not taken away from their offensive players. But man, this is going to be a hard-hitting game.
I can't wait for it because these are two of the most technical open field hitting teams. You and I talked to nauseum about how people forget how to wrap up.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to get after the ball as a team. These teams don't have that problem. You watch these teams on defense, and they have 3, 4, 5 guys going after the ball at once. One person wrapping up, and then they're making a pile. So when the play stops, the play is dead where it lies. You can't really get away from these defenses is what I'm trying to get at.
No, and I want to piggyback off that for a second because that comes down to coaching.
Yes.
And when you look at the coaching in this matchup in particular, you have Sean McVay, who is a very creative schemer and play caller on both sides of the ball. He knows how to generate pressure by alternating your defensive line, and he knows how to really exploit the holes in whatever defense you're trying to use in his offense. He utilizes a lot of different players in a lot of different ways, in motion, exposing, making it easy for Matt Stafford to read it. And Matt Stafford's going to be better than he was last year. And he threw for 41 touchdowns last year. He was fantastic, even though he had the most interceptions in the league, which was 17. Mm-hmm. But he still threw for 41 touchdowns. And obviously most of them going to Cooper Kupp, who is the Super Bowl MVP
and the Triple Crown winner.
And the Triple Crown winner last year. And he's just coming off from a phenomenal year. And, man, but getting back to coaching, Sean McVay, excellent coach. We know that. But Sean McDermott for the Buffalo Bills is probably one of the most underrated coaches. Sean McDermott for the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, and Sean McVay for the Rams.
I thought it was switched.
No.
It was McDermott for the Rams and McVay for the Bills.
No.
Okay.
And so Sean McDermott...
I always get them mixed up.
Yeah, it's the Seans.
I always get them
mixed up. It's the Seans. And they both spell it the same way. S-E-A-N.
Right. Yeah. No. It messes me up.
But Sean McDermott is a very underrated coach in this league. And he is he falls in the ilk of defensive-minded coaches, such as Mike Tomlin, and formerly Mike Zimmer as well, and Belichick as well, who is a defensive-minded coach.
Kevin Stefanski.
He's, I guess, a little bit more offensive-centric, I would say. But he does scheme up a good defense, I will say.
He makes a good defense.
But Sean McDermott is very underrated. And according to some interviews with Josh Allen in this past offseason, Sean McDermott is just kind of like giving the reins to Josh Allen. He's just kind of saying, like, in the first couple years of his career, he was kind of hand-holding him and like telling him what plays to run. And now it's like, I trust you, kid.
Do what you got to do.
Make it happen.
Right.
And that's when you have a coach that just believes in the quarterback and just believes that, look, I trust your judgment. You're going to get it done. It's going to happen. It means the world to quarterbacks because you see the best out of them. That's what Andy Reid does with Mahomes. Like, he'll be like, hey, look, I want to try out this play, but other than that, it's like, I trust you to get it done. Yeah. And more times than not, we've seen Mahomes get it done. And so we're going to start seeing that with Josh Allen more this year, where it's like, he's going to run that offense. And the play is going to be whatever he diagnoses on the field, he's going to call a counter for it. And he's going to say, look, I know you're running man coverage. We're going to be going a lot of underneath stuff, and we're going to be running the ball up the middle. You're going to be doing zone. I'm going to find the holes.
Right.
And so I cannot wait to see just the relationship of Sean McDermott and Josh Allen evolve this season.
Yeah, watching relationships between quarterbacks, when they're good, they flourish. You look on the opposite side of the coin, you look at the beginning of Jalen Hurts' run in Philly, when they didn't embrace him at all. He was running for his life. And then afterwards they learned, and now they invested in him, and he is a baller. You look at Chicago, the unfortunate situation in Chicago with Justin Fields. They are not embracing him one bit. He has no help. He is desperate. But you look at Buffalo, completely embraced. And they're going to flourish. You look at Matt Stafford for years in Detroit. They did not embrace him and work with him. They gave him one piece for years. Mm-hmm. One piece here, one piece there, one piece here, one piece there. He goes to Los Angeles. They embrace him. Boom, they win a Super Bowl. That happens everywhere. Just like you just said, it's happening in Kansas City. You know where else it's also happening? It's happening in Arizona. Which is why this Week 2 game is so exciting. Kansas City versus Arizona.
Oh, man. This is one of those games where when the schedule came out, I cannot wait for this game because you have the Kansas City Chiefs against the Arizona Cardinals, Week 1, and are there must-win games in Week 1? Are some games that important where they count as must-wins? Because it feels that if any team loses in the AFC West, they're just falling behind because there's just so many great teams within that division. But, man, I think everyone is really looking to see what are the Chiefs going to look like without Tyreek Hill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is 100% correct. You know, it's going to be the big question of who was the cheat code, Patrick Mahomes or Tyreek Hill. Mm-hmm. Looking at the tape and the preseason games in Miami, that Tua-Tyreek combo is going to be something to behold this year. I want to see I feel personally that Kansas City is going to feel that. You know, and they're going to have to really learn how to adapt. Being that this is a very early game, I feel in the AFC as a conference, to piggyback off what you said about their division, you lose a game in the AFC as a conference, you're really in a hole. You know, you can't start without winning a game, I feel, in the AFC.
Well, you can't lose consecutive games, and it's going to be tough because Kansas City, they have a very tough schedule ahead of them this year. Mm-hmm. And to start off against the Cardinals, that's a tall order because the Cardinals, again, sometimes it's not who you play, but when you play them. Mm-hmm. And the Cardinals, for as long as they've had Kyler Murray, have been a lot better in September and October than they have been in November and December. Mm-hmm. So for the Chiefs to play the Cardinals Week 1, I think the Cardinals are going to come out, you know, firing on all cylinders. Granted, yes, they're going to be without D-Hop for about, I believe, 6 games, if I'm not mistaken. But that's why you have Hollywood Brown. That's why you have Rondell Moore. That's why you still have James Conner. That's why you still have Zach Ertz. And so,
great pickup at the end of last year.
So you have still. You're without your best number one receiver, but you still have great depth to you. Mm-hmm. And I think the same can be said with Kansas City as well. It's like, yes, you lose your number one target, but at the same time, you still have great depth as well. Mm-hmm. Because even without Tyreek Hill, the Chiefs still have Juju Smith-Schuster that they picked up this offseason. They have Martez Valdez-Scantling. I had to make sure I had to articulate his name. From Green Bay, they acquired him through free agency. You drafted a rookie, Sky Moore, to see what he can do and to see if he can take defenses over the top. And then you still have Mecole Hardman, who's a great slot receiver as well. Also, you have Travis Kelce, who led the team in yards received last year as a tight end, and had the most touchdowns for a tight end last year as well. Also, you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the backfield as a running back, but then you also have Jerick McKinnon out of the backfield as well, who's a hybrid running back that can run it and play a vital role
in the flex, right?
Yeah, plays in the flats as well. So I think, yes, the Chiefs are going to feel the absence of Tyreek Hill. But, man, their offense, I could still see Mahomes throwing for 5,000 yards and over 40 touchdowns.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't see the Chiefs I don't think they're going to regress as a team.
Okay.
Personally.
I feel like in the beginning they're still going to regress because as a team they are, but to piggyback off of what you said about Arizona being really good in September, Andy Reid is lethal in September.
He's nearly undefeated in the month of September.
Right. He is absolutely lethal in September. There's not a team in the league that can go up against Kansas City in September and say for a fact that they know that they're going to get the best of them, no matter who it is, just because for some reason Andy Reid likes to win in the fall.
Andy Reid likes to win in the fall. Apparently Cliff Kingsbury does as well. And the one thing that concerns me for the Cardinals is they lost some defensive players. And I will say specifically they lost Chandler Jones, who, he may not be the best edge rusher, but he's a very great veteran presence. That, again, remember last season, week 1 against the Titans, he had 5 sacks that game.
Yes, he did. I believe 3 of them came in the first half.
And he just ignited what was to be a 8-game winning streak
run.
And an 8-game winning streak out the jump until they met Green Bay in that great game that was on a Thursday night. But, man, you lose Chandler Jones, and obviously this is your second year without Patrick Peterson. Yes, you still have Budda Baker, and he's a great safety, but it's tough when your best defensive player is a safety because then it really makes it hard for teams to – it makes it hard for your defense to defend the box or defend the line of scrimmage, and it makes the middle of the field very open. And, man, Patrick Mahomes – teams were playing a lot of cover 2 against him last year, and he learned how to be better, be the better quarterback and take the checkdowns, and that won him games. So if Arizona wants to force Patrick Mahomes to take the checkdowns, he'll do it, and he'll do it marching down the field, and that's what concerns me. And again, the Chiefs don't have that good of a defense as well, and especially where you lose your safeties, you lose the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, and Mitchell Sorensen, but he was a liability. Let's be honest. But
yeah, kind of. But he was still a very necessary piece in the fluid motion that was Kansas City. And to piggyback off of what you were talking about when it comes to Arizona having the issues that they have on defense, like you just said, Kansas City fell into those issues too. They put up a lot of points. But they let up a lot of points. Yeah. And Arizona is just like Kansas City, where they're one of those teams where you don't want to let them get up a lot of points. Because this is going to come down to the first turnover is probably going to win you the game. They're going to just keep scoring on each other until the defense, and personally I feel Arizona's defense has just that much more of a cohesive talent to make a play big in the clutch time. I feel that is, but then again, it's going to come down to coaching where Andy Reid is just that good where he's going to see it and capitalize on it before it happens. So this game is going to be an absolute chess match. But overall, it's another way for Kyler Murray to show himself. Yeah. He's putting himself up against a future Hall of Fame quarterback. Again, and he's going to have the fight of his life ahead of him. It's going to be, I love this game. The first 2 games are absolutely insane.
It's funny because this game, they're kind of identicals of each other in a sense. Where it's like,
match.
It's where you have the teams that are pretty great on offense with a young mobile quarterback that is without their best wide receiver for whatever reason, but they're still going to be able to generate points. Weak defenses, especially in the secondary for both of them, and great coaches who love to win in September. And so they match up very well against one another, and it's going to be a mirror match. And like you said, it's probably going to be whoever gives up the first turnover.
Right. Because the first turnover is going to lead to points one way or another.
Oh, yes.
You know, and between these two teams, odds are it's probably going to be a touchdown.
Yeah.
Because they're both very hot and heavy teams. Just like the other two teams in their division, Vegas and the Chargers.
And they play week one.
And they play week one as well. And got to tell you, that's going to be another candidate for Game of the Year. I feel like every game that involves that division is potential Game of the Year caliber because of just how stacked that division is.
It's crazy, too. Like, all primetime games might as well just be AFC West matchups.
At least one AFC West team in it. And it's going to be one of the best games of the week, by far. So, in terms of Arizona, it's going to be Kansas City, Arizona, it's going to be nuts. But let's move to Las Vegas and Chargers, man. That is going to be an absolute barn burner. I am so excited for this game.
Man, this game, it's funny you said that this game has the potential to be the game of the year because last year, week 18, Raiders-Chargers pretty much was the game of the year, obviously, before Kansas City Buffalo.
That playoff game, right.
But man, what a game that was. Like, let's not forget that game where Derek Carr and Justin Herbert had a shootout between one another. And honestly, both teams made stellar moves this offseason to bolster not only their offenses, but also their defenses. And for the Chargers specifically, they reinforced their offensive line, which is what they needed. Give Justin Herbert more time to throw. Whereas the Raiders, they said, Derek Carr, you're in a shootout, you're with the Glock. No, take this machine gun, take this turret from Terminator 2, where he's just standing up and just mowing down. Take this absolute weapon of a player in Devontae Adams and have fun.
Right, go and do something.
And have fun. And so both teams made moves that were necessary to better themselves on offense. On defense, they both got helping hands to help their edge rushers. Joey Bosa got Khalil Mack.
Oh, one of the best pickups in the offseason.
Nasty tandem. And then Max Crosby got Chandler Jones from Arizona.
Oh, my God, again.
And so this is another game where they just match up so well. And to think we get to watch this matchup again later on in the season.
Yeah.
But this feels like a must-win game, doesn't it?
You know, like you just said earlier, like when we just started talking about these games, like are there must-win games in week one? In the AFC, every game is a must-win game because of the talent in the AFC as a conference. You know, we said it last week. When you look at the NFC, there's a couple of head runners, and then the rest of the, they're stragglers.
It's heavy at the top.
Right, very heavy
at the top within that conference.
But you can kind of pick and choose as to who's going to be where. You can run the wheel for the top four, and then everyone else is just going to fall into place. When you look at the AFC, my head hurts because of just how talented some teams are. You know, you have the ones at the bottom, but there's only one or two at the bottom. You know, and the Jets are one of them.
To think 12 out of 16 teams, or was it? Yeah. 12 out of 16 teams in the AFC can be playoff contenders.
Exactly.
And I think the only ones that are not are like the Jets, Houston,
Detroit,
Jags, and Cleveland.
Right.
Detroit's in the NFC, yeah. Right. But it's like out of every other team is like, yeah, you can see them in the playoffs.
Right. They're absolute playoff contenders. So, again, this game, these two teams are top caliber in the AFC as of right now. Again, I see another barn burner, potential game of the year. Derek Carr he's going to be a man on a mission. you look at the adversity they faced this year, they aren't going to face any of that this year. It's just going to be go and play. And I gave you one of the best weapons that probably is not going to drop a pass this year.
No, he's human. He'll drop a pass.
But remember when he was in, I believe when he was in Houston, he didn't drop a pass, just like Larry Fitz didn't drop a pass.
He's a sticky bandit. Yeah.
There's a generation of wide receivers that we grew up with, like Larry Fitz, like D-Hop, that just catch everything. They don't drop the ball. Cooper Kupp, he doesn't really drop the. He is very consistent with catching footballs.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact, little off, and Larry Fitzgerald has more career tackles than he does drops.
Unbelievable to think about.
Just a little snippet in that one.
Little sugar for your coffee.
So I really like this matchup. It's an absolute mirror match, and the entire AFC West is a mirror match amongst the four of them.
Well, I don't know about Denver. That's the one.
Yeah, that one hurts.
I don't know. We're going to talk about Denver a little later, but I will say this. So I mentioned in this segment Terminator 2 and Home Alone 2. I ask you this, Chris Palmer. Has there ever been a sequel that's better than the original? Those are strong contenders, right? For their respective, franchises.
Relatively,
and film.
yeah.
This sequel to that game last year may be better than it was last year.
Very cool segue. I'm not even going to lie to you.
And so this sequel is going to be... I just think it's going to be a direct continuation of that shootout, where both teams know what the other team wants to do, and it's going to be up to the quarterbacks who ultimately decides. Much like Kansas City and Arizona, this game I see, again, first turnover, that's probably going to be who decides the game.
And to piggyback off of that, to be honest with you, when it comes to those 12 teams in the AFC, that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to be the first team that's going to turn the ball over. Points are going to happen, and if you don't catch up, you're going to be left behind, and you're probably going to wind up losing that game.
Yeah.
So it's going to be crazy in the AFC this year. So everyone, I implore to really pay attention to what's going on that side of the field.
Absolutely. And just one last thing. Every possession of games matter. And that's the thing, too, is sometimes we overlook that a possession doesn't matter, but no, it matters. And especially with how competitive all these teams are in the AFC, every possession is going to matter.
Oh, absolutely. Every possession counts.
So turnovers are going to be that much more detrimental to teams, and touchdowns are going to be that much more valuable to teams. Mm-hmm. And, man, I cannot wait.
Yeah. Going across the board, though, to the NFC, Tampa and Dallas this week.
That is the Sunday night primetime, the first Sunday night primetime for this upcoming season. You have Tom Brady going into Dallas, into Jerry World, to play the Cowboys. Now, what are your expectations for this game?
Well, like my bold prediction said, it's going to be his worst statistical year.
Okay.
It ain't starting this week. This ain't the week for it. No, it ain't this week. This week he's going to come out as Tom Brady, and he's going to just absolutely floor Dallas. Tampa, they're going to have a good season this year. This is going to be a testament of attrition for Dallas, as if you can just keep up and not hurt everybody. Dallas, I feel, really, really put Dak in a terrible position. They recently just released his only backup quarterback since 2017.
Cooper Rush.
So now he's the only rostered quarterback on that team.
Also, don't forget they also lost their left tackle, Tyron Smith.
Right.
As well. So they're going into this banged up. And so is Tampa as well. They have, I think, 3 out of their 5 offensive linemen get hurt in the month of August alone. Since our last episode. they had significant injuries. But I just have a question for you, because I know you said Tom Brady is going to have you're going to predict that he's going to have his worst year. Obviously not this week, but you said Tampa's going to win games. What record would you give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year?
Stand by. Let me just check their schedule real quick.
Okay, because personally, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going 14-3, give or take a game, and being the first seed in the NFC. And I think that teams are going to have to go through Tampa and Brady ultimately to get to the Super Bowl. But with this upcoming game, I will say this. Dallas won a lot of games last year. They're not going to be as good of a team this year as they were last year. I think they were the most penalized team, but yet they had the most yardage scored and most points scored in the league. So they scored the most points and they had the most yards, but they gave up the most penalties too. To me, that shows undiscipline. It's very undisciplined in Dallas, and I think that Brady, he's going to see that. He's going to see a lot of young players on that defense and be like, I'm going to exploit you. Because I have seen players' entire careers before my very eyes.
Right.
You are just another player to me. And so as good as, say, Micah Parsons is, and as much as we're going to see more of Micah Parsons for the Cowboys this season, Brady's going to make it very difficult for them this year.
And to piggyback off of that, like I said in my other bold prediction, that Trayvon Diggs is going to be a bust. Look out. Guess who's going to open that window first?
Tom Brady and Mike Evans. He's returning from injury, so he may not be back week 1. Actually, it's doubtful that he's going to be back week 1. Okay. He'll probably be back week 4 or so. But you have Mike Evans, Russell Gage, Julio Jones, Cameron Brate, Leonard Fournette. So he's still good.
Right. So you said they were going to go what?
I said 14-3.
I see 11 wins.
So 11 and
11-6.
11-6. Okay.
Yes. I'm sure you probably have them beating Cincy.
I do, yes.
I don't.
I have it because when is that game? And
it's in December in Tampa, though. Brady
plays his best in December.
Yes, he does, but Joe Burrow's got ice in his veins.
But, okay, so you think that game's that can go either way?
What do you think about the Tampa 49ers game? I feel like that could go either way.
I think I don't know what to believe in Trey Lance. I don't know. I don't trust, or I'm not going to take a leap of faith to say that he's going to be excellent this year when he has not started a full season in 3 years.
Right.
So for the 49ers, at this point in time, I trust the Buccaneers to win that game than the 49ers to win that game at this point in time.
But see, at this point, the only reason why I disagree is coaching. I feel like Kyle Shanahan will be able to coach that team past Tampa.
Okay.
That's what I feel at this point.
Well, we'll have to discuss it more once that game comes up.
Right.
I do think that they will get swept by the Saints, though.
I do, too.
Because Brady has not beaten the Saints in the regular season since coming to Tampa.
And then I feel like he's going to lose both against the Ravens and the Rams.
See, I don't know about the Ravens. I'm a little skeptical on that one.
I feel like you guys are more groomed to beat them.
It's
Your
possible.
offense is better than that defense.
It is. I will agree with that. But again, I want a couple more games to see how the Ravens are going to be. I have an expectation of what they will be. Whether they meet that expectation come later on in the season, we'll see. And we'll probably talk about that game when it comes up, too.
Yes. And, again, I feel like the Rams are going to beat the Bucs.
See, I think that was another loss that I had for them.
So that's the 6 losses that I see.
Okay.
So I see 11-6, and who knows, maybe because of the games that they lose, they could be a wild card team or potentially miss the playoffs.
Well, you think anyone in their division is going to win it over them? Maybe the Saints?
Maybe the Saints because of that sweep.
But not the Panthers or the Falcons. Then.
Absolutely not.
So I trust the Buccaneers to win that division over the Saints. Okay. Especially being that, again, we kind of have a feeling of how the Saints will look this year, especially with them returning to form and getting healthy this year. and obviously Dennis Allen taking over coaching duties for Sean Payton.
Mm-hmm.
He's still going to give Brady fits, and of course we'll talk more about the Saints later on in the season. But for the Bucs, though, again, I still trust that defense. I think they're good, and it's just real hard to bet against Brady at this point, especially when he's just coming off an MVP caliber season. Too.
I agree.
And at this point in time, he was also voted the number one best player in the league on the NFL Top 100. As voted by the players. So the players in the league have come to a pretty grand consensus that, Tom Brady's just the best player at this point.
Well, yeah.
And for the players to say that, that's very impressive because, again, he's 45 years old.
Hasn't that happened 3 times in his career when he was voted number 1 or something like that?
Yeah, this is his 4th time.
4th time.
So
he's voted number 1 in the top 100.
Mm-hmm. Since they've done this league,
the top 100 listing by players,
which is about 11 years old or so.
He's had it 4 times. Good for him. Well, it was a bold prediction, mate.
Hey, but we shall see.
Correct.
We shall see. But again, for Dallas, let's move on to Dallas, though. I think we're setting our expectations a lot lower than they were last year. Correct?
Oh, for sure. Well, to put it into limelight, their offseason was terrible.
That's an understatement.
Oh my God, they may have had the worst off-season ever when it comes to franchise, and they definitely had the worst off-season in the league this year, without a doubt. They drafted nobody, they picked up nobody, they lost people, and Trayvon Diggs is starting to really show how much of a clown he is during practice. And they're getting rid of any type of roster depth.
Yeah, so
there seems like they're falling into almost like the point of desperation in a matter of an off season.
Yeah, I just want to go over just a few losses that they had. They lost Randy Gregory. He's now on the Denver Broncos. Amari Cooper, they traded him away for a 3rd-round draft pick to Cleveland. Cedric Wilson, their number 2 wide receiver, he's now on the Miami Dolphins. Tyron Smith got injured. You put Tyler Smith, your first round draft pick, into that position. He was the most penalized player in all of college last year, going to the most penalized team last year.
It doesn't make any sense.
Okay, I'm glad you see the same thing.
It doesn't make any sense what's happening in Dallas because, again, there was a little light of hope coming from Dallas last year during the season. Michael Parsons was playing great. Trayvon Diggs had immense amount of interceptions. Again, but once the limelight hit that he was giving up the most yards in the league, he was figured out early. But in the beginning, he was pretty cool. Zeke and Dak, they were finally back on the same page. The offensive line was working. Jerry Jones was keeping his mouth shut. That's really what...
No, Jerry Jones never keeps his mouth shut. But, man, I will say this, though. Within Dallas's own division, Dallas may be a wild card team. Maybe. But they're not winning that division this year.
No, that's all Philly.
I believe Philly, we believe Philly is going to take that division from Dallas. Now, remember, history is screaming at you that it's probably not, the Dallas Cowboys are probably not going to win that because no team since 2004 has won that division in consecutive years. Mm-hmm. So every year has been a different winner. It was a couple years ago it was Washington, mm-hmm. and then it was the Cowboys. This year's probably going to be the Eagles, and then the year prior was also the Cowboys. So it's like it's a different mixed bag of who's going to be good, and I think Philly is going to run roughshod over Dallas this year. But we'll talk more about Philly later on. But for Dallas, man, they do not look like a better team than they were last year.
They got worse, and now it's even though you can kind of see the headhunters of the NFC, the middle of the road, which is kind of where Dallas sits in the NFC, it's wide open too, but it's just not as star heavy like the AFC.
No.
And to piggyback off what you said, I personally feel this is the last year that we're gonna see a rotating wheel in the NFC East for division winners. I feel like this is the year that Philly takes it over. It's going to be their division for years to come.
I would like to see that.
You know, they're going to be division clinchers. That the NFC East is going to belong to Philly for a little while because the Giants aren't coming.
They ain't getting their shit together.
The Giants are not coming. Dallas is not coming. Washington sure as hell ain't coming.
No.
That division is Philly's for years to come.
I would like to see that, but man, for Dallas to just get exposed on that Sunday night primetime game, it's going to be a tough year for Dallas this year.
Tough year for Dallas for sure.
But let's move on to the last game that we want to talk about, and that is the Monday night primetime game, and that is probably it's against the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks. Now, we were talking about how Dallas is going to have a rough year. Seattle is probably going to have the roughest year out of any team this year.
Yeah, you have them going winless as a bold prediction.
I do, yes.
I see them getting one, at most two, depending on if the Giants play worse than them or not. So, you know, either way, they're going to be fighting for a first overall draft pick this year. You know, they're going to be fighting for that. But the storyline, though, Russ turns home.
Russell Wilson comes home to Seattle to play a depleted Seattle Seahawks team.
And deflated for those who don't know who's at the helm in Seattle is Geno Smith.
Oh my God.
Geno Smith returned to the starting position of quarterback.
Oh, I just saw as of today the Steelers made a trade Mason Rudolph to Seattle. So now you have their three quarterbacks. Geno Smith, Mason Rudolph, and Drew Lock.
Oh, no. You see, little side note, I feel like Dallas should make a move for Mason Rudolph just to have him as a backup.
See, that's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad move.
Not a bad idea.
You know, but we'll get into that at a later time. As for Seattle, pitiful. You guys go winless the year that Bobby Wagner leaves. I think it's almost time to start looking at a new coach.
Yeah.
Because this coach has led you into complete disarray. Complete disarray with a head of steam, especially after dumping Russell Wilson, who is a top 5 quarterback in the league. Easily a top 5 quarterback in the league.
I will say this, though. I just want to toss it out to the universe real quick. If Seattle's looking to rebuild, they obviously want draft picks, right? Mm-hmm. I think the Ravens should make a move for DK Metcalf.
Oh, God.
And before the trade deadline. Because...
But what do you have for trades for draft stock?
Give him a first-round draft pick next year. I would do it for DK. He's that good. And that's the thing, too, is like he's like him and Tyler Lockett, great receivers. But the quarterback is not going to be able to get them the ball. And Russell Wilson, one thing that he's had to overcome in Seattle is poor offensive line year after year after year. And to think that any one of those 3 quarterbacks that has to go behind that offensive line, they're not going to shine like Russell did. Russell Wilson overcame that. Now he's in Denver, and this is a team that's basically tailor-made for him, where it's like, look, we have a great line. It's way better than it was in Seattle. You have some playmakers, nothing crazy, but you're going to hear more Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy this year than you have been in years past.
Right.
And if you haven't met Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams as running back, you're going to meet them this year.
Right. Giddy up. Here they come.
You're going to recognize their names because those guys are going to be stellar this year, especially in the run game. So it's like you give him a great line, some good wide receivers, a stellar run game, and a great defense too. This team is basically tailor-made. Like, it just needed a quarterback. And Russell fits this team like a glove. And I think for him to come back to Seattle, this is going to be a blowout, man.
Oh, they're going to steamroll them. But that's more so because of the disarray that Seattle's in. But I want to backtrack momentarily for what you said about the Ravens going for DK Metcalf.
Okay.
The Ravens make a move for DK Metcalf. Mm-hmm. How are they going to pay Lamar?
Because DK is still under his rookie contract.
If Seattle's dumb enough to let him go, you best believe it has to be during his rookie deal.
Because
I understand, but if Seattle's dumb enough to accept that offer, me personally, I wouldn't give up a first-round draft pick for no one who's been in the league. Whether you're on your rookie deal or not, I'm not giving you my first-round draft pick. Because of the talent coming out of college. Kids are coming out of college ready to play and ready to start, especially in the skill position. And they're getting faster, and they're getting taller, and they're getting stronger. There aren't many like DK Metcalf. The man is an Olympic qualified runner. And he's enormous. And he's enormous. I'm not taking anything away from him. Seattle needs to hang on to him. And if someone approaches them, it needs to be for more than one first-round draft pick. Make him unviable. And then you double down and you pay him when his rookie deal is up. Well, it's what Seattle should do.
It's after this year it's up, so it's like either he stays with Seattle this year or someone trades for him, or he hits the open market next year.
And they could tag him for 1 year.
They could. Theoretically, they could.
They could tag him
but I mean, that's a lot of money that they'd have to be paying him.
Oh, yeah.
So again, Seattle's, like, it's funny because even we said last year, there's going to be some major changes in Seattle this offseason. But my God, I don't think
anyone saw Russell Wilson leaving.
I don't think we saw, I mean, we kind of thought it would happen, but man, I did not think that they would be as incompetent as they were in this offseason in how depleted they were. And so, like, Seattle's going to be real bad this year, man. Like, they're going to be so bad.
I think their offseason was in the same vein as Dallas,
and Chicago.
Chicago hurts my heart.
I know.
Chicago hurts. It really does. Chicago hurts because of Justin Fields. I like Justin Fields. The kid can play. But the complete incompetence of the front office to embrace him is going to be his downfall, and I don't want to say, but he may wind up getting injured.
Well, let's not put it out there.
I'm not trying to, but that's the reality of what happens when you have a quarterback who's running for his life all game.
I will say this, though. In football, you can tell what teams are run well and that put their players in a good environment. Where you're going to see on Monday night that Denver has invested a lot in their team, and they're putting their players in a good environment to win and be successful as much as they can be. Whereas Seattle is the opposite way, where it's not that good of an environment where all the players are kind of like playing just to kind of put some film out there on a resume. And it's hard to see what Seattle's going to look like in years to come. But, man, at least for this year in particular, it's going to be rough for them.
Yeah. You have any final thoughts on the Monday night game?
No, man. I think I've pretty much said how I think it's going to go. But with that being said, Chris Palmer, you want to pick some games?
Wow, I can't believe we're here, man.
Let's
pick our Week 1 games. Who do you got for Thursday night?
I'm taking the Bills Thursday night. I think that both teams, again, it's so close to call. It really is. But I just think the Buffalo, at this point, for the expectations that are set on them, if they are the team that we think they are, they're going to win this game.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Buffalo, I feel like they're going to come out with such a head of steam that even the high that is a Super Bowl win, everyone always talks about the Super Bowl high. Not many people know of it. It's called a Super Bowl hangover.
Well, that's typically for the team that loses.
It comes in for the team that win too, because they come in and they're thinking so high of themselves, and other teams are just working harder.
They get fat cat syndrome, as it's called.
Correct. So I'm going Buffalo with you. What about New Orleans and Atlanta?
I'm going to go New Orleans. Atlanta, I think, is going to be one of those bottom-tier teams this year, and they're probably going to win a surprise game here or there. But I think New Orleans, getting everyone healthy, you get a healthy Jameis Winston, healthy Alvin Kamara, a healthy Michael Thomas, you have a rookie Chris Olave, and you have a good defense in getting Tyrann Mathieu and Mitchell Sorensen. But you get Tyrann Mathieu. And that defense is pretty good as is. So I'm going to take New Orleans in that game.
Yeah, again, I can't help but agree with you that New Orleans is going to take that game. Atlanta is missing too many pieces. Been saying it for probably about 2 seasons now, both off and on air. It's time to move on from Matt Ryan.
And they did. To Marcus Mariota.
Even better. No, they need to go into the draft stock and they need to look and they need to start. And they need to get a young quarterback that's ready to play.
They do.
Instead of going into the league and finding a middle of the road / subpar quarterback to run a team that is young, hot, and ready. So until that happens, they're not going to succeed. Cleveland and Carolina.
Man, so Baker Mayfield is the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. And his first game as a Carolina Panther, he has to play against his former team, the Cleveland Browns.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go Carolina. Not so much for Baker Mayfield, but because Christian McCaffrey is healthy. And I believe Christian McCaffrey, when healthy, is a game changer. So I am going to go with Carolina on that game.
I'm actually going to go Cleveland.
Okay.
But not for their offense. Well,
their defense.
For their defense. That Swiss cheese of an offensive line in Carolina is not going to be able to hold Myles Garrett back.
No, it's going to be real
tough. It's going to be a good homecoming and a great re-meeting for Myles Garrett and Baker Mayfield all game.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And when it comes to Cleveland, even on their offense, even though their quarterback, they're really suffering right now, they still have Nick Chubb.
And Kareem Hunt.
So they still have that two-headed Leviathan of a run game.
Yeah, you have the two-headed Leviathan. You have Amari Cooper. You have David Njoku.
You still have that offense.
You have Peoples-Jones. You still have some good players.
All you need is someone to give them that ball.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin Stefanski is a better coach.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still Matt Rule, right?
Yes, for now.
I liked Matt Rule, and he just completely went up on his own side of his head. So we're split on that one. I'm going to go with Cleveland.
Okay.
San Francisco, Chicago.
San Francisco, of course. Again, we're going to see what it looks like: a young quarterback in a great environment and a young quarterback in a bad environment, and the difference is going to be night and day. So I'm going to take the 49ers on that one easily.
Yeah, without a doubt. But I implored everybody to watch this game because you're going to watch a tale of two quarterbacks. These quarterbacks are very similar when it comes to athletic ability, but they're in worlds apart when it comes to situation in franchise. Trey Lance is ready to win. Justin Fields, I feel bad for.
Yeah, I feel for him too.
So yeah, I'm with you on San Francisco. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati.
Man, do I have to pick this one? I guess so. I'm going to take Cincinnati. Reason being is I just don't know. I mean, I know what to expect for the Steelers' defense. I don't know what their offense is going to look like, especially first year without Big Ben. And obviously you have Chase Claypool, but you don't have Deontay Johnson anymore. You don't have Juju anymore. You have Najee, but your offensive line is still Swiss cheese. I don't know how the Steelers are going to look. But I have some idea on what the Bengals are going to look like this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take Cincinnati, as much as I don't want to.
You'll never see me going with the Bengals when it comes to playing the Steelers. Steelers, I feel, are going to win this game. I agree with you. Our offensive line is... Again, you've got to remember, majority of our offensive line are sophomores.
Yes.
Last year was their first year.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't play terrible for what they were. They were rookies. Now they're sophomores. They have to show that they've advanced.
Yeah.
They have to show it. And as of right now, we still have not announced a starter. So, I feel like Kenny Pickett's going to get the start.
Okay.
I feel like Mr. Trubisky's going to have to take a back seat. I feel like Mike Tomlin saw something in Kenny Pickett in this preseason. He had a really good preseason as a rookie, coming out, and he, I think his QBR rating was 138 at the end of it.
Passer rating.
Passer rating.
Passer rating,
138,
yeah.
yes. Sorry, passer rating. So if he does get the start, I feel like it's going to be a different game versus if Mitch gets the start.
Okay.
You know what? Again, Mitch is one of those quarterbacks where he can come in, he can win. You're not going to win because of Mitch Trubisky. You know what I mean?
He's just going to be a field general.
He's going to be a
game manager.
Thank you. He's a game manager.
Yeah.
Where I feel like Kenny Pickett can get over to floor game general. You know what I mean? So that's where I feel like it will be a difference once we make an idea as to who's going to be our starter.
Okay.
But I'm going Pittsburgh just out of sheer loyalty.
I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you.
Baltimore and the Jets. Come on. That's not even.
You see Men in Black where they're towing the alien's truck.
Right.
Please.
Right. Come on.
Please.
Philly and Detroit.
I think this is going to be a lot closer of a game than people realize.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to take Philly because I think that Philly made some really good offseason moves, getting A.J. Brown and drafting some really young Georgia defenders to join that defense, especially in the box too. But again, Detroit made some great moves too. Aiden Hutchinson, that's a really good move.
Yes, he did.
And you still have DeAndre Swift at running back, who is still your best player. And a lot of people overlook him, and he's a great running back.
Yes, he is.
But this is going to be a low-scoring running game, but I think I'm going to give it to Philly.
You know, I'm going to go to Philly, too, because Jalen Hurts is a baller, and Detroit still needs some moves. But there's something about Detroit, man. There's something brewing in Detroit.
They play hard.
They play hard, and they play together. I feel like they're in a similar situation that the Chargers were in. Think back 4 years, where they were playing better than their schedule showed. Playing better than their record showed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're playing together. They're having their mistakes, but again, they're playing as a team. You know, no one's singling each other out. They're just in it. They're in it together.
They're in it together.
So once they get a team, they need a couple more pieces, and then heads are going to turn just like heads turned for the Chargers, I feel. So I'm going to keep an eye on Detroit this year.
Oh, absolutely.
Indy, Houston.
Indianapolis, baby.
Houston's in disarray.
I will say this, though, and this isn't a bold prediction, but I do think the Colts are going to take that division this year. And
I can see that.
They're going to take it from the Titans.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that if the Titans don't put Malik Willis in.
They're not going to.
Then that's how it's going to happen.
So,
you know, if Malik Willis gets the start, which is very unlikely, it could be a different conversation.
It can be, but when the time comes, we will be talking about that.
An interesting game ahead: New England and Miami.
I'm going to give that to Miami. New England doesn't play well in September, nor do they play well in Miami typically. Plus, Miami really invested into this offseason. They really invested in the offensive line, his playmakers. Not only does he have... Think of his receiving core. It's Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Cedric Wilson. And then you have Mike Gesicki at tight end. Oh, also you have Raheem Mostert at your running back
right.
now.
You have the fastest team in the league by far.
But I really want to see where this new head coach for Miami, where he wants to take them. From what we've heard in this offseason of New England, they're much like the Cowboys. They didn't really have a great offseason.
They didn't do much.
So, I'm going to give this game to Miami.
Yeah, I'm going to give this game to Miami as well. I feel like Belichick's going to go into this year like he normally goes. We're going to wait till it's almost playoff season. You know, he usually coasts probably until late October.
And then November, December, that's when he turns on the gas.
And then he turns the gas on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but now it's more or less predictable, and he doesn't have his ace in the hole, which was Tom Brady for 20 years. Mac Jones, he's good, but he needs pieces. And for some reason, I don't know why, when it comes to the Kraft family and it comes to Belichick, they do not like drafting skill guys. They draft late round linemen. They draft people that they're going to keep on their farm teams for years to come, and we're going to forget about who they are before they make a start. And off-season, they're not going to make many moves to make their depth chart better. It's just a habitual thing with New England. And for 2 dynasties worth of time, it worked. Because you had someone who could make it work. I don't think Mac Jones is that guy who can make that type of situation work. So I'm giving this game to Miami. Next is Jacksonville and Washington. Kind of a roll of the game.
I'm going to give this one to Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they're a young, developing team that, with a new head coach that has invested in offense, also getting some players on defense. They got Trayvon Walker as the first overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the moves that the Jags did this offseason. They're not going to win many games this year, but against a very dysfunctional Washington team,
they could win that game.
I think that's a very winnable game, especially with Washington. Again, I feel bad for Ron Rivera because he's a great coach, but man, the team does not look that good, especially with Carson Wentz at the helm now. So I'm going to give it to Jacksonville.
Yeah, I can't help but agree with you that Jacksonville is going to take this one too. Washington, like you said, is in complete disarray. Shout out to Ron Rivera. Always the utmost respect for that man. That team is just not good. And again, they're another team that didn't do much in the offseason. And Jacksonville, I feel like they're falling into the same vein as Detroit, where they're now a couple pieces away until some heads start turning. They got Trevor Lawrence. They need an offensive line, and they need a running back. Those are the utmost necessities.
Random question. Who do you think makes the Super Bowl first in our lifetime, Jacksonville or Detroit?
Jacksonville.
Okay.
I'll give it to Jacksonville over Detroit. I still feel Detroit's the most snake-bitten team in the league.
I ain't gonna argue that.
I see Jacksonville first because they're more of a new age type of team, where Detroit still has that old mindset where we're going to run it down for 13 plays and we're going to score a touchdown. They don't have a one-shot deal. Once they do get a one-shot deal, everyone thought it was going to be Calvin Austin. It ain't Calvin Austin. All right. So we both have Jacksonville. Moving on to the Giants and Tennessee.
I'm going to give it to Tennessee. Derrick Henry is just going to run roughshod on them. And then there's nothing the Giants can do to stop him.
Yeah, no, the Giants are not prepared for this game. The Giants are not prepared for the Derrick Henry that's going to come out. If they're lining up against someone who is projected to go another 2,000 yards, this man could have a 200-yard rushing game, week 1.
Easily.
2-3 touchdowns.
Nick Bates, start him.
Start him. Kansas City, Arizona.
I'm going to take Kansas City on this one. I think that Mahomes, when you really look at this team, again, it's mirror matches of one another. But when you break it down, offense, who is the better offense? I'll give it to the Chiefs. I think without D-Hop, it's a very big absence than it is for Tyreek for the Chiefs. I think the absence of D-Hop is greater than in Arizona than it is for Kansas City and the Chiefs. Defense, I'll give the defense a slight edge to Arizona.
Okay.
Slight. Not much, but slight. So that comes down to coaching. I trust Andy Reid more over Cliff Kingsbury. And I think with that being said, I feel very comfortable taking the Chiefs in this game.
I respect that, but I'm going to go outside the comfort zone, and I'm going to give Arizona this one.
Okay.
I feel like week 1, we're really going to see that deficit of Tyreek Hill, regardless of the roster on Kansas City.
Okay.
Reason being is because Arizona, in my opinion, their offense is becoming more well-rounded when it comes to running and passing. Kansas City is a pass-dominant team, and everyone knows that. They don't really run it very much. I feel like they're going to have to run a little bit more now with Tyreek Hill gone. Arizona loves to run the ball. They love to run the ball, whether it's a read option, whether it's a downhill run with James Conner, and that opens up their pass game.
Mm-hmm.
And, like we were saying earlier, Kansas City has issues over the middle. And Kyler Murray doesn't like to throw it far. He likes to get it to the stars and let them go have fun. So that middle opens up. It's going to be a hot and heavy game. I got to go with Arizona on this one.
Hey, I respect it.
Again, Andy Reid is lethal in September, so they have to come out and not stop. They have to catch Andy Reid off guard, and that is too tall of an order for a lot of teams.
It is.
Moving on to Vegas and the Chargers. Game of the year candidate.
Who are you taking?
Why'd you make me go I got to go with Vegas.
I respect it.
I got to go with Vegas out of sheer loyalty for Derek Carr and having a soft spot for the Raiders, wanting them to do well. But both teams are going to have it cut out. They're absolute mirror matches between the two of them and their divisions, like we have said. This is round 2 of what I think is going to be a decade or more of one of the highest scoring rivalries in the league.
Okay, I can't argue against it. I just have a feeling in my gut, and I'm going to say Chargers. I just think, again, it's when you play a team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that loss to the Raiders, again, it left a sour taste in the Chargers' mouth because that was their final game last year.
Mm-hmm.
They missed the playoffs because of that game.
Yes.
Brandon Staley is a good coach, and he has a plan going into this game.
Mm-hmm.
And Brandon Staley and the Chargers, they are very hot in September. As we've talked about previously, they fall off typically by the end of the year. Some teams will surprise them and upset them, but Chargers can go toe-to-toe with basically anyone, especially now with Justin Herbert at his apex. So I'm going to go with the Chargers on this game.
My final thought on the Chargers is the only way that it's more clear-cut to me is if they figured out how to close out a game.
Yes.
If they did not figure it out, Vegas is going to capitalize. Because they close out games in the blink of an eye.
They do.
Before you realize that the game's over and there's nothing you can do.
Well, I will say this. One thing I forgot to mention is the individual matchup that I want to see is Devontae Adams and J.C. Jackson.
I can't wait.
That's going to be a great individual matchup to look for.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to Green Bay and Minnesota.
You might be surprised at my pick on this, but I'm taking Minnesota.
Okay, explain.
I think Minnesota is going to be a very good team this year because they're getting everyone back healthy. And I think that, yes, their defense may not be that good, but you're getting an offensive-oriented head coach now who believes in Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm.
And so they still have a fantastic roster on offense. Like you have Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, and Adam Thielen that people still sleep on.
Wasn't he runner-up for Triple Crown?
No, not last year.
Okay.
Not last year, no. But I think Minnesota is going to be a playoff contending team this year, and I think it starts against Green Bay, who has, again, that loss. We talk about that loss of Tyreek Hill, that loss of DeAndre Hopkins, but that loss of Devontae Adams with Aaron Rodgers, who has been dependent on Devontae Adams, that's going to be felt.
Yeah, and that's another one that I agree with you. Minnesota, they're primed to win a lot of games this year right now. Everything is kind of falling into place finally for Kirk Cousins. It's been a kind of a long bout for him. I feel like now he's finally getting a breath of fresh air with a coach that's ready to invest.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, you have a sour veteran in Green Bay, to say the least. And now you got rid of his only piece that he ever really threw to. So I see a heavy regression from Green Bay coming. When it comes to Aaron Rodgers, I feel like he himself could still have a great season. Green Bay is going to suffer no matter how well he plays until he's out of Green Bay because of the animosity that he's brought to the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
People now know he is not in it to win the games. He is in it for himself.
He's in it for the money.
He's in it for the money.
He's in it for the money.
Which is fine. but understand the repercussions that are going to come
Of course.
from a team that wants to win. If you let it be known, and you are a 16-year now, 17 years?
Rodgers?
Yeah. He's got to be working on 18 years.
No, not 18. He came in the league in 2007, so about 15 years.
15 years.
15 years.
15-year vet. You now have a bunch of young guys that, especially a young quarterback, that you refuse to embrace.
I'm sorry, 16 years, so...
Okay. So, and still, after 16 years, this is the way you're kind of going to work it out now?
He's just become Brett Favre.
He's Brett Favre all over again.
He's really just become Brett Favre at this point.
And I feel for Green Bay because they haven't learned.
And it's funny, too, because, he's a future Hall of Fame quarterback that's won one Super Bowl and hasn't really come close since then, and has just put up great numbers and stuff, but can never get his team over the hump.
Nope.
That was Brett Favre, that's Aaron Rodgers.
Correct. Tampa, Dallas, I feel like this is kind of a roll. Tampa. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Dallas is in disarray.
Cowboys fans.
No, not even sorry for them. I hate Cowboys fans.
Whoa.
No.
Whoa.
Can't stand
Whoa.
Cowboys fans. And then the final game of the week, Denver and Seattle.
Please.
Another absolute wash.
That's going to be a blowout. I mean, it's great for the storyline, but Russell's going to cook them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be an absolute wash. Okay, guys, there it is. Week 1 is right up the alley. The season is underway. Season of the revenge match. There's plenty more to talk about as we watch. Please leave a like, a comment, subscribe. Tell anybody about us. We are Let's Talk Football. We are very excited for the season, and we hope you are too. Thank you, guys.
Let's have a great season.
Have a great season.